Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the stories that shaped our world. Today, we're tackling a giant, Alexander the Great.
Definitely a giant.
I mean, think about it, the great in the West, but the accursed to his enemies. That tells you something straight away.
Absolutely. We're talking about a king who's just 20 years old, and in, 10 years? He carves out this massive empire stretching right to the edge of the known world.
It's almost mythical, the scale of it.
It really is. So what we want to do here, I think, is really unpack how he did it. How does this young man from Macedonia achieve all this?
Right. We'll look at his military genius, obviously, but also the controversial stuff, the tough decisions.
And the legacy.
Yeah.
Because his life, it just completely changed the course of history. Brutal, brilliant, complicated.
Exactly. That's what gets me. You have this brilliant leader, this student of Aristotle, fierce warrior,
Yeah.
but then capable of, real ruthlessness.
Oh.
Fits of rage.
Yeah, the contradictions are stark. It's that classic story, maybe, of absolute power, boundless ambition. What does it do to a person?
Who was the real man behind the legend? That's what we're digging into.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. Before Alexander, what's the world like? Particularly Greece and Persia.
Well, Greece had been this, incredible hub for centuries.
Yep.
Art, philosophy, new ways of fighting, dominated by city-states, Athens, Sparta, the big game.
And Athens with its democracy and navy, Sparta, hyper-militaristic, disciplined.
And they'd famously teamed up back in 480 BC against the Persians. Huge invasion. You've got Thermopylae, Salamis.
Legendary moments. But that unity, it didn't stick. They turned on each other. Decades of fighting, Athens versus Sparta.
The Peloponnesian War and its aftermath.
Exactly. It left the whole Greek world just exhausted, vulnerable, ripe for someone else to step in.
Enter Macedonia,
Mm-hmm.
seen by the southern Greeks as, kind of a backwater?
Oh, absolutely. Hicksville, barely even Greek in their eyes. But then comes King Philip II, Alexander's father. He changes everything.
Oh, what did Philip do?
He was a military innovator, first and foremost. He took this sort of provincial kingdom and built a professional, formidable army.
And his big innovation was the sarissa, right?
It's the most famous one, yeah.
Yeah.
This massive pike, 18 feet long.
18 feet, that's enormous.
Twice the length of a standard Greek spear. He gave these to his infantry, the phalangites, and trained them in this tight formation, the phalanx. 16 ranks deep.
So like a wall of spear points coming at you.
An almost unstoppable wall, yeah. From the front, anyway. That was the key.
And Philip put this army to good use.
Oh, immediately. He crushed Thebes and Athens, the big powers at Tyronia in 338 BC. A decisive battle.
And that let him unite Greece.
Pretty much all of it, yeah. Except Sparta. They held out. He formed the Hellenic League, the League of Corinth, and had himself named Hegemon, supreme commander.
And he had bigger plans, didn't he? Persia.
That was the ultimate goal, a pan-Hellenic war, all Greeks united against Persia. Persia was seen as this ailing giant, fabulously wealthy, just sitting there ripe for the taking.
And he never got to lead it.
No. Just as he's about to launch this massive campaign, he's assassinated, stabbed by his own bodyguard.
Macedonia's court politics were pretty brutal then.
Very. So suddenly, Philip's gone. And his son, Alexander, just 20 years old, inherits the throne, inherits the army, inherits this huge, ambitious plan.
And Alexander, even though he was young, he wasn't exactly inexperienced. Tutored by Aristotle, already commanded troops.
Exactly. But first, he had to make sure everyone knew who was boss. And, his first moves were incredibly ruthless.
Yeah, tell us about that. It wasn't a smooth transition.
Not at all. He executed potential rivals, anyone who might challenge him. Then he had rebellions pop up, Illyria, Thessaly, central Greece. He marched north, then south, crushing them.
And Thebes.
Yeah.
He made an example of them.
A terrible example.
Yeah.
He utterly destroyed the city, leveled it, sold the population into slavery. The message was crystal clear: don't mess with Alexander.
Brutal. But effective, presumably.
It certainly secured his position. So by spring 334 BC, he's ready. He leads his army across the Hellespont into Asia Minor and begins, one of the greatest military campaigns in history.
Okay, so let's talk about that army he's leading. What made it so special? You mentioned the phalanx.
Right. The core was about 9,000 Macedonian phalangites with those 18-foot sarissas. That solid wall of iron spear tips, almost unbreakable head-on.
But you said vulnerable from the sides.
Highly vulnerable, difficult to maneuver quickly, and if you got around the flanks or behind them, big trouble.
So how did he protect them?
That's where the rest of the army came in. He had 3,000 elite infantry, The hypatisbists, shield bearers, they had shorter spears, were more mobile, and guarded the phalanx flanks.
Okay, so they add flexibility.
Exactly. Then you had thousands of allied Greek hoplites, mercenaries, skirmishers, elite javelin throwers, archers, slingers, a real combined arms force.
And the cavalry.
Yeah.
The famous companion cavalry.
Ah, yes. About 1,800 elite companion cavalry. Heavily armed shock troops. Alexander usually led them himself from the right wing. They were the hammer, the phalanx was the anvil.
Pin them with the phalanx, shatter them with the cavalry.
That was often the plan. He also had excellent Thessalian cavalry and other mounted units. It was a versatile, well-balanced force. Around 40,000 men in total, crossing into Asia.
So this army lands in Asia Minor.
Mm-hmm.
How do the Persians react? The local governors, the satraps?
They meet to decide what to do. And there's this Greek general in their service, Memnon of Rhodes, very capable guy.
What was his advice?
Smart advice. Avoid a pitched battle. Use scorched earth tactics, burn the crops, poison the wells, withdraw, make Alexander's supply lines impossible, starve him out.
It makes sense. Did they listen?
Nope. The Persian satraps, well, they weren't willing to destroy their own provinces. Pride, maybe, local interests. Whatever the reason, they rejected Memnon's plan.
So they decided to fight.
They did. They chose to make their stand at the river Granicus.
All right, the Battle of the Granicus, 334 BC. Alexander's first major test against the Persians. How did it play out?
The Persians lined up behind the river. It wasn't deep, but the banks were steep. About 10,000 cavalry in the front line, drawn from all over the empire. Behind them, several thousand Greek mercenaries.
Greek mercenaries fighting for Persia. Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, maybe they don't fully trust them against fellow Greeks, keeping them in reserve. Alexander arrived, took one look, and despite advice to wait for dawn,
He just went for it.
immediately ordered an assault right away. He led the right wing himself, companions, Hypaspis, straight across the river and up the bank.
Straight into the Persian cavalry line. That sounds incredibly risky. Was he really in the thick of it?
Absolutely. The accounts described total chaos. Horses jammed against horses, men against men. Alexander was right in the middle, gets his helmet smashed by a Persian noble's axe.
Nearly killed.
Almost. Saved by Cleitus the Black, one of his officers. Cleitus supposedly saw the blow coming, charged in, and cut off the attacker's arm, sword, and all. A very dramatic moment.
Wow. So Alexander survives, but what about the battle?
The sheer speed and ferocity of Alexander's attack just broke the Persian cavalry. They couldn't handle the companions and the Macedonians pushing up the bank. They turned and fled.
And the Greek mercenaries in the back.
They barely got involved. The Persian cavalry routed so fast, the mercenaries were left isolated. Alexander surrounded them and just massacred them.
Why? Just ruthlessness.
Yeah.
Or something else.
Possibly sheer battle rage. Or maybe a cold calculation, treating them as traitors to the Greek cause, sending a message. Either way, it was brutal.
But a decisive victory.
A huge victory. It essentially opened up all of Asia Minor to him.
So, Granicus is a major win. Asia Minor is effectively his. What are the next steps for Alexander?
Well, strategically, he needs to consolidate. Sardis, the regional capital, surrendered without a fight. But the big issue was the Persian navy.
Right, they could still threaten his supply lines back to Greece.
Exactly. So instead of trying to build his own fleet to fight them at sea, he decided to take their naval bases along the coast. Cities like Miletus, Halicarnassus.
Did they resist?
Oh, yes. Halicarnassus especially put up a really determined fight. The siege lasted well into the winter, but eventually he took them. This neutralized the Persian sea power threat.
And somewhere around this time, he encounters the Gordian knot.
That's right, up in Gordium, in central Anatolia, this ancient knot tied to an ox cart. And the prophecy.
Whoever unties it rules all Asia.
Exactly. So everyone's trying to figure out this complex knot, and Alexander, well,
He just cuts it.
slices it in half with his sword. Classic Alexander. Direct, decisive, maybe a bit impatient. But it was powerful symbolism. Forget the old rules, I make my own.
Okay, so he's consolidating, neutralizing the navy, making symbolic gestures. About 18 months after the invasion, the big one happens. King Darius III himself marches out with the main Persian army.
Yes, this is the moment. Darius gathers a huge force, maybe up to 100,000 men, including his elite infantry, the 10,000 immortals.
But he tries to trap Alexander.
He does. He manages to get behind Alexander's army in Cilicia, blocking his route south. He forces Alexander to turn back and fight on a narrow coastal plain near Issus.
Narrow? How narrow?
Only about 6 miles wide, from the mountains to the sea. Darius thought this was great. Alexander couldn't escape.
But wait, wouldn't that also limit Darius's own army? He had way more men.
That was Darius's huge miscalculation. The narrow field completely negated his numerical superiority. He couldn't flank Alexander easily. It actually played into Alexander's strengths.
So how did the Battle of Issus, 333 BC, unfold?
Alexander deployed in his usual way. Parmenion holding the left flank near the sea, Alexander with the elite troops, companions, hypaspists, javelin throwers on the right, towards the mountains. Darius just waited behind the river Paneris.
And Alexander charged.
Of course. He led the charge on the right and again smashed through the Persian left wing. But in the center, things got dicey.
The phalanx ran into trouble.
Yeah, in their eagerness to keep up with Alexander's charge, their formation got disordered crossing the river. They ran straight into Darius's best troops, his Greek mercenaries, and the phalanx was actually being pushed back.
So the battle's hanging in the balance. What does Alexander do?
He sees the danger. He doesn't just keep chasing the routing Persians on his wing. He regroups his companions and launches this absolutely ferocious charge sideways, straight into the Persian center, aiming right for Darius himself.
Towards the king.
Right at him. And Darius, seeing this, this apparently unstoppable force coming straight for him, this maybe seemingly crazy Macedonian king, he panicked.
He fled again.
He turned his royal chariot and fled the battlefield.
And that just broke the Persian army.
Completely. Morale collapsed. Everyone started running. It turned into a total rout, a massacre. One of Alexander's generals, Ptolemy, wrote later that they filled a ravine with Persian bodies just so they could cross over it.
Unbelievable carnage. And the spoils.
Huge, including Darius's wife, his mother, and his 3 children captured alive. Alexander famously treated them with respect, which was noted at the time.
So Issus is another massive victory. Darius is on the run.
Yeah.
What's Alexander's next move? Does he chase Darius?
Not immediately. First, he turns south down the Mediterranean coast. He needs to secure the entire western part of the Persian Empire. Phoenicia, Syria, Egypt.
And the Phoenician cities were key naval bases, right?
Exactly. Most submitted, effectively ending any remaining Persian naval threat. But Tyre was different.
The island city.
Yeah, they decided to resist. They were on an island about half a mile offshore, heavily fortified, brave defense, very skillful.
How did Alexander even attack it?
It was an epic siege, took 7 months. He ordered his engineers to build a causeway, a land bridge, right out to the island under constant attack.
Building a bridge while being attacked.
Yeah, they brought up giant siege towers on the causeway. The Tyrians fought back hard, used fire ships against his siege equipment. But eventually, Alexander's forces breached the walls.
And the result?
Total destruction. Most of the citizens were killed or sold into slavery. Another brutal example. Gaza also resisted and fell after a siege.
Then, on to Egypt. How was he received there? They'd been under Persian rule for a long time.
But Persian governor just surrendered Egypt, handed over the treasury. Alexander marched to Memphis, and the Egyptian priests basically welcomed him as a liberator.
Liberator. Even crowned him pharaoh.
They did. It suited them to get rid of the Persians, and it certainly suited Alexander's image. He also founded a new city there.
Alexandria, the famous one.
The most famous of many Alexandrias, yeah. And then he made that journey out to the desert oracle of Siwa.
Why? What was the significance of that?
It was the oracle of Ammon, whom the Greeks identified with Zeus. And according to some sources, the priests there greeted him as the son of Amun, son of the king of the gods.
Son of a god. That must have inflated his ego somewhat.
You'd imagine so. It certainly reinforced this idea of his divine destiny. But while he's in Egypt, consolidating power, founding cities, visiting oracles, trouble brews back in Greece.
Sparta again. The ones who never joined the league.
That's right. King Agis of Sparta thought this was his chance. Alexander's far away, maybe vulnerable. So with some Persian funding, Agis launches a revolt against Macedonian control in 331 BC.
How did Alexander handle that from Egypt?
Well, he didn't have to handle it directly. His regent back in Macedonia, Antipper, a very capable general, dealt with it. He marched south with an army.
And faced the legendary Spartans.
And crushed them, near Megalopolis. King Agis himself was killed in the fighting. So the Spartan revolt fizzled out. Alexander's base in Greece was secure again.
Okay, so Greece is under control, the Mediterranean coast is secure, Egypt is his. Now, finally, he can turn east again, towards the Persian heartland.
Yes. But before he marches, Darius tries one last time to avoid the final confrontation. He sends Alexander a message.
Another offer. What was it this time?
A truly staggering offer. A huge amount of gold, his daughter's hand in marriage, and basically half the Persian Empire, everything west of the Euphrates River.
Wow. Half the empire. What did Alexander say? I mean, Parmenion supposedly advised him to take it.
The story goes, Parmenion said, "If I were Alexander, I would accept." And Alexander replied, "So would I if I were Parmenion."
Ouch.
Yeah, Alexander refused. By this point, with the victories, the oracle being hailed as pharaoh, he believed it was his destiny to rule the whole world. He didn't want half. He told Darius he was coming to take it all.
That sets up the ultimate showdown. Gaugamela, 331 BC. Darius's last stand.
This was it. Darius knew it. He carefully chose the battlefield this time, a wide open plain near modern Mosul in Iraq. Perfect for his numbers.
How many men did Darius have?
Estimates vary wildly, but significantly more than Alexander. Maybe 50,000 to 80,000, perhaps even more. He had cavalry from all over the empire, infantry, war elephants,
Elephants?
and scythed chariots.
Yeah, up to 200 scythed chariots, blades sticking out from the wheels. He even had the ground leveled and cleared specifically for them. He was banking on sheer numbers and these terror weapons. Alexander was outnumbered at least 2-1.
So how did Alexander approach this? He couldn't just charge straight in, surely.
He used tactical genius. He deployed his phalanx in the center, but angled his flanks back, almost forming a box to guard against being surrounded. He put his best cavalry, the companions, under his own command on the right. Crucially, he had a secondary line of Greek hoplites ready to react to breakthroughs or flank attacks.
Smart. Prepared for encirclement. How did the battle start? Alexander did something unexpected. He started leading his right wing away to the right, almost diagonally, trying to draw the Persian left wing out with him.
Trying to create a gap.
Exactly. The Persians mirrored his movement, stretching their line to try and overlap his flank. And just as Alexander hoped, this pulled Persian troops away from their own center, weakening it. It was a trap.
Then came the chariots.
Darius unleashed them. They must have looked terrifying. But Alexander was ready. His elite light infantry, the Agriana's javelin throwers, targeted the horses and drivers, and the main infantry lines were trained to simply open ranks, create lanes.
Let them pass through.
Let them pass harmlessly through the formation, then attack them from the sides and rear. The chariot charge was largely ineffective, a brilliant counter.
So the chariots fail, the Persian center is weakened.
Alexander seized the moment. He wheeled his companion cavalry and parts of the phalanx and charged like lightning straight into that weakened gap in the Persian center, heading directly for Darius again.
Déjà vu from Isis. What happened this time?
Same result. Darius saw Alexander and the companions cutting through his best guards, getting closer and closer. And he panicked. Again. Turned and fled.
Unbelievable. The great king flees again.
It doomed his army. But the battle wasn't over yet. While Alexander was chasing Darius, his left wing, under the veteran General Parmenion, was in serious trouble.
Well, what's happening there?
They were getting hammered. Huge onslaught from the Persian right-wing cavalry, including Indian and Scythian horsemen. Parmenion was nearly surrounded. Some Persian cavalry even broke clean through a gap in the line.
And attacked the Greek rear.
No, incredibly, they rode straight past Parmenion's struggling troops and went to loot the Macedonian camp instead. A potentially fatal mistake for them.
So Parmenion is in dire straits. Does Alexander come back?
He gets word of the crisis. He has to make a choice. Keep chasing Darius or save his left wing. He chooses to save his army, abandons the pursuit, regroups, and slams into the Persian right wing that was attacking Parmenion.
There must have been intense fighting.
Probably the hardest, bloodiest fighting of the battle. Alexander lost about 60 of his companions, his elite guard, in that clash. But eventually, news spread that Darius had fled. The remaining Persian resistance collapsed. They routed.
Another complete victory. Absolutely stunning.
And decisive. Thousands of Persians lost, relatively few Macedonians, maybe just a few hundred. Gaugamela shattered the Persian army. The road to Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, the heart of the empire, lay open.
So, after Gaugamela, Alexander marches into the Persian heartlands. Babylon, Susa. How does he receive?
Basically as the new king. The gates were open, treasures handed over. He sat on the royal throne of Persia in Susa. He's now, effectively, the ruler of this vast empire.
Then he gets to Persepolis, the ceremonial capital. You mentioned earlier, this is where we see contradiction.
Yes, this is a really complex moment. He'd presented himself as a liberator, the legitimate successor to the Persian kings. But when he reached Persepolis, a place filled with symbolism for the Persians.
He destroyed it.
He ordered it to be looted and burned to the ground. The sources say it was explicit retribution for the Persian invasion of Greece 150 years earlier, payback for the burning of Athens' temples.
So, liberator and avenger.
Yep.
A dual role.
Exactly. It shows he could be pragmatic, adopting Persian customs when it suited him, but also capable of the symbolic, brutal act of vengeance.
Meanwhile, what happened to Darius?
Alexander pursued him east into Media, but Darius kept fleeing. Eventually, as Alexander closed in, Darius was betrayed and murdered by one of his own governors, Bessus.
Bessus then declared himself king.
He did, proclaimed himself Artaxerxes V. Alexander found Darius's body, treated it with respect, and actually sent it back to Persepolis to be buried in the royal tombs. Another calculated move, perhaps.
So Darius is dead. Alexander has the main Persian centers.
Mm-hmm.
Did he stop? Consolidate?
He does pause briefly to organize the empire. Appoints governors, satraps, sometimes Macedonians, sometimes loyal Persians, which was quite smart.
Yeah.
But stopping. No, his new goal was set.
It was
Find and kill the usurper Bessus. Subdue the empire's remaining eastern provinces, places like Bactria and Sogdia, modern Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and basically reach the edge of the world.
the edge of the world. So he marches east, deeper into Central Asia, founding cities along the way.
Lots of them, many named Alexandria. Alexandria Ariana near Herat, Alexandria Arakosia near Kandahar, all the way to Alexandria Eschari Alexandria, the furthest in Tajikistan, right on the edge of the old Persian Empire. He also fought off Scythian nomads there.
But this relentless campaigning, pushing further and further east, years away from home, he started causing problems within his own army, right? Discontent, paranoia.
Big time. This is where the story takes a darker turn, internally. The Macedonians were exhausted, homesick, and they started resenting Alexander's changes.
Like adopting Persian customs.
Yes, he started wearing Persian-style robes, adopting court rituals. To the Macedonians, this felt like he was going native, becoming decadent, forgetting his roots. They saw Persian customs as effeminate.
And the paranoia leading to plots, or perceived plots.
There was a serious plot uncovered involving Philotas, the commander of the companion cavalry. He confessed under torture, whether true or not, we don't know, and was executed.
And his father, Parmenion, the veteran general.
Chillingly, Alexander had Parmenion assassinated back in Ecbatana. Parmenion hadn't done anything, but Alexander couldn't risk him hearing about his son's execution and potentially turning against him. Utterly ruthless.
This must have terrified his own commanders.
Absolutely, and the alienation grew. Then came the incident with Cletus the Black.
The man who saved his life at the Granicus. What happened?
At a feast in Marikonda, modern Samarkand, they got into a furious, drunken argument. Cletus apparently criticized Alexander, maybe for adopting Persian ways or taking too much credit. Alexander, in a rage, grabbed a spear and killed him.
Killed the man who saved him.
Yes. Instantly regretted it, apparently. Full of remorse, locked himself away for days. But the damage was done. It showed his growing arrogance, his violent temper. Old comrades were being alienated or killed.
And he tried to introduce proskynesis, that Persian custom of bowing down.
He did. He wanted his Greek and Macedonian courtiers to perform it. But for Greeks, that was something you only did before a god. It felt like blasphemy. There was huge resistance, led by his own historian, Callisthenes. Alexander had to back down on that one.
So more tension, more plots.
Another assassination plot emerged, led by some of his royal pages. They were caught, tortured, stoned to death. Callisthenes, the historian who opposed proskynesis, was implicated, arrested, and died in prison. Alexander's inner circle was becoming a dangerous place.
Yet amidst this, he makes a political marriage to Roxana.
Yes, in 327 BC, Roxana was the daughter of a powerful Bactrian lord. Marrying her was a smart political move to help pacify the region and cement alliances. It shows he could still be pragmatic even amidst the growing turmoil.
Okay, so Bactria and Sogdia are more or less subdued. Bess is caught and executed. But Alexander still isn't done. India is next.
He wants to conquer the easternmost provinces of the old Persian Empire, which included parts of modern Pakistan and India, and beyond that, reach the world ocean that Greek geographers believed lay at the edge of the world.
So he crosses the Hindu Kush Mountains.
Fights his way into the Swat Valley, takes the capital of the Assassinians, Masaga. There's a story about the queen there, Cleophas.
And then he faces King Porus.
Yes, at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. Porus ruled a kingdom in the Punjab. Alexander made an alliance with the neighboring king, Taxila, to fight him.
And this was a tough one. You mentioned war elephants.
His costliest battle. Porus was a formidable opponent, and his war elephants caused absolute havoc among Alexander's troops. terrifying casualties.
But Alexander still won.
He did. His tactics eventually overcame the elephants and Porus's army. It was another decisive victory, giving him control of the Punjab. Alexander was impressed by Porus's bravery, though, and actually reinstated him as a ruler under his authority.
So he controls the Punjab. Now surely he wants to push onto this edge of the world.
He desperately wanted to. He heard tales of the Ganges River, believed it might be this world-encircling ocean. But his army, they'd had enough.
They mutinied.
At the river Hyphasis, the modern Beas River, they refused to go any further. You have to remember, these men had marched thousands upon thousands of miles.
Fought countless battles.
Hadn't seen home in 8 years. They were exhausted, weary, and they heard rumors of even bigger armies, more elephants waiting for them deeper in India. They just broke.
How did Alexander react? He wasn't used to being defied.
He was furious. Tried to persuade them, sulked in his tent for 3 days, but they wouldn't budge. For perhaps the first time, he had to bow to the will of his men. He agreed to turn back.
A turning point. The limit of his ambition finally reached by the limits of his army.
A profound moment, yeah. Even Alexander couldn't push them forever.
So the long journey home begins. Was it easier going back?
Not at all. It was incredibly arduous. It took about 10 months. Part of the army sailed back via the Indus River and then the sea under near Agis.
A major voyage of exploration itself.
One of the great ancient voyages, yeah. Sailing through the Persian Gulf. But Alexander led the rest of the army overland. And part of that route went through the Gadrosian Desert in southern Pakistan.
That sounds bad.
It was horrific. Extreme heat, lack of food, lack of water, terrible suffering. Huge numbers of soldiers, followers, animals died. A disastrous march.
And Alexander himself almost died during this return journey.
Earlier, yes, while campaigning against the Malayans in the Punjab on the way south. He was leading an assault on their city, first over the wall, got cut off, and was shot in the chest with an arrow. Punctured his lung, very nearly killed him.
He survives that, survives the desert, and finally gets back to the Persian heartlands. What does he find?
He finds that some of the governors and viceroys he'd left behind had been misruling, acting corruptly, abusing their power.
So he had to clean house.
Swiftly and brutally. Several were executed. He needed to restore order and show he was still firmly in command.
And then came that famous mass marriage at Susa.
Yes, a spectacular event. He had dozens of his top Macedonian officers marry noble Persian women. Alexander himself took 2 more wives, both Persian princesses.
Why? What was the point of that?
It was a deliberate policy to try and fuse the Macedonian and Persian ruling classes, to create a new, unified elite for his empire, strengthen the bonds between his 2 kingdoms, as he saw it. He also paid off all his soldiers' debts, a massive gesture.
Trying to win back favor after the mutiny and the hard journey?
Probably partly that, yes. And he ordered 30,000 young men from across the empire to be trained in Macedonian warfare, integrating them into his army.
But these moves, the favoring of Persians, the marriages, it didn't sit well with the original Macedonian troops.
Not entirely. At Opis, near Babylon, they mutinied again. They felt slighted, offended by his apparent preference for Persian advisors, Persian customs, these new Persian troops.
Another mutiny. How did he handle this one?
He acted decisively, arrested the ringleaders, had them executed immediately. Then he gave this incredibly powerful, emotional speech to the army. Reminded them of all the glory they'd won together, how they started with nothing under Philip, how he'd led them to riches and victory.
Did it work?
It led to this tearful, emotional reconciliation. But you can feel the underlying tension was still there. The relationship between Alexander and his veteran Macedonians had fundamentally changed.
Around this time, he suffers a major personal blow, doesn't he?
Yes. His closest friend, maybe his lover, Hephaestion, died suddenly of a fever in Ecbatana.
How did Alexander take that?
He was utterly devastated, grief-stricken, apparently went days without eating, ordered extravagant funeral rites, public mourning across the entire empire. It hit him incredibly hard.
So after mourning Hephaestion, dealing with mutinies, organizing the empire, what were his final plans?
He returned to Babylon, received embassies from all over the known world, seemingly Italy, Carthage, Ethiopia, Celts, Iberians, all coming to recognize his power. His wife Roxana was pregnant. He was planning his next big campaign. An invasion of Arabia.
Arabia, why?
Resources, trade routes, perhaps just the challenge, but he never got to launch it.
He fell ill.
In Babylon, after a prolonged bout of feasting and drinking, he developed a high fever. It lasted for days. And then, just like that, he died. June 323 BC. He was only 32 years old.
Just 32. After all that, do we know what killed him?
Still debated. Malaria, typhoid fever, cholera from the swamps around Babylon, West Nile virus, or was it poison? The suspicion fell on Antipater's family, the regent he'd left in charge back home, whom he seemed to be falling out with. We'll likely never know for sure.
So Alexander the Great, dead at 32, undefeated in battle, his reputation as this brilliant, daring commander. Still intact today, isn't it?
Absolutely undimmed. In just over a decade, he'd led this incredible campaign, created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. Greece, Egypt, the entire Persian Empire, all the way to India.
But it was an empire built around him.
Entirely. Held together by his genius, his charisma, his force of will, his name, and he left no clear successor, no plan for what came next.
The famous story is his generals asked him on his deathbed, "To whom do you leave your kingdom?" And he supposedly whispered,
To his strongest, Hoditokratisto. Whether he actually said it or not, it's what happened.
"The wars of the successors." His generals immediately started fighting each other for pieces of the empire.
A brutal, decades-long conflict. The empire fragmented almost immediately.
And his immediate family, Roxana, his unborn son.
A tragic end. His son Alexander IV was born after his death. Both he and Roxana were eventually murdered, pawns in the generals' power struggles. His mother Olympias, his half-brother Philip III, all killed in the fighting.
Even his body became a prize.
Yeah, his body was embalmed, placed in this magnificent gold sarcophagus, meant to be taken back to Macedonia. But Ptolemy, one of his generals who'd grabbed Egypt, hijacked the funeral procession and took the body to Alexandria.
And its location today.
One of history's great unsolved mysteries. Lost somewhere in Alexandria, probably.
So the empire's shattered. His family wiped out. But his impact, it lasted, didn't it?
Immense. Despite the political fragmentation, his conquests ushered in what we call the Hellenistic Age.
Hellenistic, meaning Greek-influenced.
Exactly. Greek language, Greek culture, Greek ideas spread throughout the vast territories he'd conquered. They fused with local Egyptian, Persian, Indian traditions, triggering new developments in art, science, philosophy, government. Entirely new kingdoms and cultures emerged from the wreckage of his empire.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? His physical empire didn't last long at all after his death. It crumbled almost instantly.
Very quickly.
But the cultural changes, the connections he forged, the spread of ideas, those lasted for centuries and fundamentally reshaped that whole part of the world.
The echoes are still there today.
So what's the real measure of a legacy then? Is it about holding on to territory? Or is it about the maybe unforeseen ways your actions ripple outwards and change the world long after you're gone in ways you never even intended?